Hi guys, Shannon here again. Today I am going to be talking about childhood indoctrination and the church possibly lowering the worthiness interviews to age 8 because both were topics recommended by listeners. Patrick about the interview age, and then I think it was Todd about childhood indoctrination. I think they kind of go hand in hand, so I thought we could just address them in one video. And also kind of goes along with my last video that just happened to be about worthiness in general and like how the church makes us all feel unworthy, which is weird because they also tell us we're like of infinite worth. That used to be in the Young Women's theme. So they tell us that, but then they give us they put us through all these interviews that make us feel that we're anything but worthy. So I guess the lowering of the age to 8 versus 12, they haven't for sure done that. They just sent out that church survey to see, kind of like get a feel for what members thought about that, which right there, I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but since Nelson got put in, we've been getting a lot more of these church surveys, like survey the people, take polls of what the people want, because it's a corporation. It's not an organization, a religion that's getting divine revelation from God. God is not talking to the prophet and apostles of the Mormon Church. They're polling the people to find out what they want, and to stop the hemorrhaging, which is happening and is going to continue to happen and going to increase really the more people find out information that is so readily available online and everywhere. So I guess about just the fact that the church is taking polls, to me, it's just the church admitting that they're not run by revelation. But on the other hand, I guess in a way it's good because the church is also taking into account the thoughts and feelings of the members, which they should be. Like, okay, let's just admit this isn't revelation. This is just like any other organization. Therefore, we need to get a feel for what the people are thinking and feeling. I voiced my vehement opposition to the church interviewing kids as young as 8. Sorry, I'm at this intersection waiting forever for a turn to go. Because it's just lowering that indoctrination, that childhood indoctrination to a younger age, because like I said, the church has to stop the hemorrhaging, and their best bet, I think, that they see as doing that is lowering the age at which they have access to these young minds to mold them into what they want. So also interesting is the church now is facing more and more just pressure, I guess, from all of these sexual abuse cases that are cropping up in the church. And it's a really interesting time to double down, and not only are they not loosening up, but they're trying to lower the age of these interviews, which are totally inappropriate, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I texted my bishop this morning because I actually wasn't sure. I got that interview, or that questionnaire from the church back in July, and then I never really heard like if the jury's still out, if they ever took a vote on that one, or what the decision was. So my bishop said they haven't made it, and they haven't made any changes yet. So now's the time to voice your opinion. Tell the church what you think, even if you're not a member anymore, even if you're not an active member. I know as soon as I got that message or that survey from the church, I texted my bishop and stake president and said, hey guys, just so you know, I am not okay with my kids being interviewed behind closed doors one-on-one with anyone from the church. I would like to be made aware if they ever are interviewed, and I would like to either be there or for their dad to be there. And they were actually cool about it. They were respectful and said that they would make sure and honor that for me. So that's great. I would encourage all of you guys to do the same thing. Make your voices heard. The church hasn't, like I said, made any decisions on this yet. But the more of us that make our voices heard that this is not okay, then maybe we can prevent this from happening. As to how I feel about it, wow, it's just like so wrong on so many levels. I think the church is getting a little bit better about not asking so many sexually explicit questions, but as a whole. But you also have to realize that you're giving individuals one one-on-one access to youth. And I would say, like, for the most part, probably 90% or more of the people in the church are good and want to do good, and the bishops and the other, stake presidents and leaders are good people. But even just that 5 to 10% that aren't, you're giving them access to these huge congregations of people and children, and that's not okay. Even if there's only one, I mean, none of it's okay. So even if there's good people that are taught to ask these sexually explicit questions, that are unknowingly asking these leading, grooming questions because they're told, like, you can ask kids if they masturbate. You can basically make them feel guilty about it and tell them that that's a sin and they should be afraid of their own bodies. I mean, it's so psychologically damaging to children to be told these things. And a lot of these children that are being told these things didn't probably even know what masturbation was in the first place, or if they've experienced it, they didn't know, like, what the word was. And so then there's this awkward embarrassingness of this grown man that you don't even really know explaining to you what it is, and then you're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I know what that is. Oh no, I don't do that, like, and then you're taught to feel shame for what is actually a natural part of human development. And just the whole concept of it is so damaging psychologically to these young, developing, growing human beings, and I wish the church wouldn't do it. Back a bit to childhood indoctrination. I think so the listener that asked me to talk about that, he mentioned how, like, we're told, I think his name was Todd, sorry if I don't, it's Tom or Todd, we're told from a young age to get up and bear our testimonies of how we know the church is true. And there was an apostle, I can't remember if it was Oakes or who it was, that basically said, your testimony will be had in the bearing of it. The more you bear it, the more you'll say. Yeah, I mean, that's like total cult mentality. The more you say, I know a thing is true, like, you'll start to believe it in your own head. You'll start to believe your own false reality. So it is very damaging psychologically to be having these young children, to tell them that they need to get up and say these things when they don't even know. We're encouraging them more to repeat these things than we are encouraging them to think for themselves. And that's how I think we end up with people like myself that are like 41 years old and they're like, wait a minute, I don't think this is right. It really shouldn't have taken me until 41 years old to figure this stuff out. But I mean, there's plenty of other people too. Like, my parents are intelligent, good, smart people. My dad is a chemical engineer, and he's well-traveled, he's well-read, and yet he still 100% believes the church. And it kind of baffles me as to how, and the only explanation I can figure out in my head as to how he still believes all this stuff despite all the information that's out there is that one, he was indoctrinated since a small child, and has been also indoctrinated that anything contrary to the church is evil. So therefore, anything that he is to look at that starts to make him question the truthfulness of the church, he automatically will cast off as, like, evil or of Satan, or, so, and I know I felt the same way when I was in the church. Like, if I would start reading anything about polygamy, for example, and it started making me feel sick to my stomach, I didn't think, like, oh, this is my intuition telling me how wrong this is. I thought, oh, this is the spirit of the devil, and I'm being overcome by Satan, so I need to close the book and put this away, which is so ridiculous looking back now. And so that's why once I started delving into all this, I just was like freed to think, like, wow, this is actually not the devil. This is my gut telling me this is wrong. And the dangerous thing about lowering the age of child interviews and also early indoctrination of children is that we're teaching them not to trust themselves, and that creates a very, very dangerous environment. So I hope you will speak up to the church, anyone that will, your local church leaders, and or write to the apostles, which I guess just comes back to the stake president, but whoever you can talk to make your voice heard, make it heard. And because it's not right. We need to stand up for the children. They can't stand up for themselves. They're too young to understand how these things are damaging to them. So anyways, that's my 2 cents for today. Like and subscribe, and I Hope you guys have a fabulous day. Bye.